Welcome back to the channel. If you're new, my name is James Salvatore, and today I have something special here for you. This is the all-new 8th generation Porsche 911 Carrera 4S Cabriolet. And in today's video, I'm going to review it, but I'm also going to go a little bit farther than that for you. I'm going to get a 2019 7th generation 911 out here so that you can see side by side some of the differences in styling that they've done with the new car. And then I'm going to take this car out on the road, drive it, and give you my thoughts on it. But before we get into the video, be sure to smash that like button for the YouTube algorithm and subscribe and turn on the bell notifications to be alerted when I post future videos. On the channel, I do everything from new car reviews, new car comparisons, classics, exotics. I like to have fun, so stick around. And with that, cue the cinematic shots. The 2020 model year marks the introduction of the 8th generation 911, and to really appreciate what they've changed here, because there's so many people on the internet right now saying that the changes are subtle and it looks like a facelift. This car is completely different, and I brought a 7th generation 911 out here so that you could see these two side by side and see the differences for yourself. Now, what I really like that they've done with this car, I mean, these are two beautiful designs, no doubt about it, but you know, I really love the new generation 911. I love that they brought back some of the 80s and the 90s stuff that, you know, you'd see all in the old whale tail cars, you know, where you had the nice, you know, upright, angular, you know, rounded headlights. I like that they brought the crease back into the center of the hood on the car. I think it just looks more aggressive and, you know, more angular. I really like that look. And if you look down here, you'll notice the differences between the two cars. You have the rounded front fascia on here, and then you have the fascia that comes to a kind of rounded point in the center of this car. Coming around to the rear of the 7th generation car, you can see the familiarity on the new one. Not much has changed there. Let's go take a look at the 8th generation car to show you the difference. When it comes to the rear end on the 8th generation, there's very subtle changes. You'll notice that the rear deck lid is a little bit shortened, and the tail lights are a little bit more aggressive with this LED strip going through the center and over the top here. I really like it. I think that they've done a nice job. Both rear ends of these cars look nice, but you know, it's just nice that they didn't really depart from that, because I really like the way they had the rear end on the last generation. The interior is where you're going to see the biggest differences between these two cars. In the 7th generation car, you have kind of like a more traditional layout. You still have all the analog gauges in the gauge cluster here, which some people may prefer. I think it looks beautiful in that it's going to age very, very well. And especially something like this in this spec, I mean, it's simply gorgeous. Now let's move on to the interior of this car, because there is a lot to talk about. The first thing that you'll see here is that there is a new instrument cluster. You have the analog central tachometer, and then you have the dual screens on the sides, which you could control what you want to see. You could change your drive modes, see your tire pressure, your G-forces, have your sport chrono for launches and whatnot, or you can have it be your map, which I like. I think is a very nice feature. And if you bump over to the left, you can control your set speed limits, navigation, and just have a few other details there. I like that they kept it simple and that they didn't go overboard with this, because in a lot of these cars, when they incorporate these digital dashes, they take away from the driving experience because you're too worried about what's going on in these screens. I like that they kept it simple, and I also like that they kept the curved instrument cluster because, you know, it just keeps true to that traditional 911 driving experience. When it comes to the infotainment system, Porsche has put their latest generation of Porsche Command in there, and it's the same thing that you'll find in the Macan, the Cayenne, and the Panamera cars. It has the Google Maps and the apps and whatnot. It also has Android Auto and Apple CarPlay standard, which is a nice feature to have. When it comes to the climate control, I like how much they simplified everything. I mean, you still have all the traditional vents in this car. You won't find those electronic vents you'll find in other models like the Panamera and whatnot. I like that they have these nice tactile buttons to set your temperature. It's not the touch sensitive ones. They kept it very simple. Another thing you'll see is on the steering wheel, they've included a drive mode selector. So you could select your drive mode from here. You have normal, wet, individual, where you can customize your own driving mode, and, you know, sport. We'll leave it in normal for now. When it comes to performance, the Carrera 4 packs a twin turbocharged 3-liter Boxer 6 engine. It produces 443 horsepower and 390 foot-pounds of torque and revs to an impressive 7,500 RPM. This car also features an integrated dry sump oil lubrication system, which will definitely help out a bit on hot track days. The Carrera 4S is also all-wheel drive, so therefore paired with the 8-speed dual-clutch PDK transmission, you get some really aggressive launches. 0 to 60 in this car happens in just 3.6 seconds on normal models, and for models equipped with the Sport Chrono package, 0 to 60 happens in 3.4 seconds, and it reaches a top speed of 188 miles an hour. But what impresses me about the Carrera 4S is not the specs on paper, it's the efficiency of this car. If you think about it, the average muscle car, like say your Mustang GT or the Camaro, has more power than this. However, this still manages to be faster and quicker in every way because of how efficient it is. With this car, Porsche proves that balance is king and sometimes less is more. First impressions of the 911, I really love the driving position in this car. You could see everything out of this car perfectly. As you would expect from a 911, this is a serious performance car. Let's get a little acceleration run. It's just, you know, with this car, it's just so controlled. It does exactly what you want it to do. This car really communicates with the driver. Shifts are absolutely instantaneous. Porsche is obviously known for their gearboxes, and this gearbox really doesn't disappoint. Getting into a 911, you expect these cars to be at a certain level, and this car is. However, one of the things I like about it is just how approachable it is. You know, you look at some of these cars today with these high horsepower numbers and you say to yourself, you know, where are you going to go with that? A car like this, you know, especially the Carrera 4S, is so well balanced. Having all-wheel drive, you could use it year-round if you wanted to, and I can easily see this car as being a good daily driver. You know, a daily driver that you can have fun in as well. I mean, but it never forgets to remind you what it truly is. I mean, just listen to those downshifts. You know, when you hear other YouTubers and car reviewers in general talk about these cars, talking about them like they're on a pedestal, like they're perfect, you know, I feel like they lose some of their message here. I'm going to be very straightforward with you because I'm not a hopped up 911 fanboy. For me, I'm looking at this car from the standpoint of, is it really as good as how people describe it? And my overall impressions on this car are, yes, this car does exactly what you want it to. I mean, just listen to the exhaust in this car. You get off, you hear those crackles, those burbles, those pops. It's just such an emotional, you know, visceral driving experience. this is a very different sounding motor. You know, you have V6s, but a lot of people don't understand that with the flat six like this, it's just such a different sound than what you're used to. And I like that even with the twin turbocharged engines, they haven't lost that emotion, because a lot of the times when you have a turbocharger on the engine, it just takes all the emotion out of the engine, and it's not as fun. I just love the instant responsive nature of this car. You know, the Carrera 4S, in my opinion, has to be one of the best 911s you can get for the road, because it's not too much power. It's just the right amount of power. You know, you can open this thing up on a back road, and it's not too much. It's not too overwhelming. With a car like this, you could still have fun and, you know, be reasonable with the speed that you're having. Listen to that blow-off noise from the exhaust. I love that. Now let's take it out on a back road and just get a feel for this car and what it's really about. Those downshifts are really something, you know, to hear all the crackles and the bangs on the exhaust when you let off. There's just something about these cars that it feels like an extension of you. It doesn't feel like you're driving it. It's more like what you want it to do, it's already just doing it. And the brake feel in this car is spot on. As you would expect from a car like this, you know, the brakes have nice bite to it. It engages right at the top of the pedal. It's gradual. This car also has really nice linear progressive throttle response. And I say that because, you know, it's not like all of a sudden the turbos, you know, like roll in and it just hits you. It's gradual. You know, the turbos build kind of like a naturally aspirated motor would. Driving this car on the road, you'll never really see its full potential. You really need a track to experience what this car could do. But, you know, I think if there was a word that I had to put to describe this car, it's balanced. Coming from driving other sports cars, you know, they don't feel balanced. It either has too much engine and the rear end's all over the place, or, you know, vice versa. This car feels well balanced. You know, it's planted. It gives you a real sense of confidence on the road. I apologize for the dark scenes, but, you know, in Connecticut, the sun sets really early. I try to make these videos as early as possible, but bear with me here because I still have more to say to you about this car. You know, if you want to be that guy, because I'm that guy who likes to go out in the middle of winter time with the top down, you could do that. Right now, it's not a warm day here. It's about 36 degrees, and I have the top down because you wouldn't want to drive this car any other way. So let me tell you, after driving this thing, who I recommend this car for is somebody looking for something that's, you know, very well balanced, something that's not overpowered, but does everything well. You want this car to handle, it can handle. You need something that you could take in all 4 seasons and be safe. You could do that in this car. And if you want something that really brings out emotion in you as you drive, it's this thing. I mean, the best way to describe what driving one of these feels like is it's an extension of you. It's not like, you know, some blunt instrument. You know, an AMG car, when you drive an AMG car or something, you know, it's like in your face. It's a completely different experience. Not that an AMG car is bad at all. I love AMG cars. But there's something that's just different about this. It's like a precision instrument, a precision tool to get around wherever you're trying to get around in the most fun way possible. Well, that's all for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you haven't done so yet, be sure to help me out by smashing that like button for the YouTube algorithm and subscribing and turning on the bell notification to be alerted when I post future videos. And before we go, I'd like to say a special thanks to my friends down at Porsche of Fairfield, Connecticut for making this video possible. They're a real awesome group of people, super helpful, and they have a lot of rare models in their inventory. So be sure to check them out. I'm gonna include a link in my description below. And with that said, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next video.